Brian was setting up the organ for the outdoor hymn sing at our annual church gathering, the Synod Assembly, when a young father and his daughter wandered over from the adjacent playground. The little girl was curious at the music. Brian asked her if she had ever seen an organ, and she said no, and so he invited her up and showed her some of the things that it could do, and then invited them both back for the hymn sing. They came. They sat with us and sang with us for a little while, and then wandered back into the playground. As we were concluding the hymn sing and packing things up, they wandered by again, and someone invited them to the campfire and s'mores and fireworks that were going to happen. They came. At the end of the evening, the little girl wandered around hugging and thanking everybody for the night. She said it was one of the most wonderful nights of her life. Little did she know how true that was. For I learned the next day in conversation with Brian that he had had a long talk with the dad that evening over the campfire. It seems that when they wandered back into the playground, they encountered an older couple. And the dad and the man had a conversation about life, about work. And the young father realized that he was not happy with what he was doing, where he was in life. That it was time for a change. It was a time to follow his dream. He'd always wanted to be a teacher. Now was the time to go back to school. He shared with Brian that something definitely happened that night. He didn't understand it, but his life was changed. And all we did was show up and invite him into a relationship. There was no plan. There were no classes in preparation. There was no manual. There were no brochures or banners or fancy tracts. There were no glib publications. There wasn't even a church building. All we did was show up. And God took care of the rest. You see, that's one of the mistakes that we make when we start talking about evangelism, sharing the good news. We think it's all about us. And in many ways, it is these days. Because much of our efforts of trying to attract new people to God is really trying to attract them into our pews. It's more member recruitment than it is evangelism, telling the story, being present with people with the good news of Jesus Christ. An interesting story from Scripture is Jesus sending out the 12. He tells them to take nothing with them. He doesn't give them lengthy instructions on how they're to tell the story or what they're to say. He just sends them. In the same way he sends us into the world. More people's lives are changed in the world than they are in church. Because it's there where the real relationships are built, where the real encounters happen. And so we are sent with all that we need, because all that we need is who we are, because God will take care of the rest. We just need to be open to sharing our lives and the stories of our faith, where we've walked, how God has acted in our lives. Yes, some days it's just about showing up and letting God do the rest.